Hey Gino, how's it going? Hope you're feeling better.
Going good.
I wanted to ask you kind of about obviously there's been a lot of talk on social media just about the difference between amenities at the women's tournament and the men's tournament. I know you're not there, but just, there's been a lot regarding we knew this would be a grind, mentally and physically. How much concern do you have regarding that, when you see, these discussions and kind of, disappointment and even outrage from some players?
Well, I'm not there, unfortunately. I obviously haven't seen anything firsthand other than whatever videos or pictures I've had access to. But the stories coming from Indianapolis are that there's some issues with some things going on out there that players are finding unacceptable. And the same is happening in Texas, but maybe for different reasons, and maybe different things are at issue. It may not be similar circumstances that exist in Indianapolis as they do in San Antonio. And everyone did know it was going to be a grind, and everyone was ready for it, as far as I can see. Although hard to be completely prepared for going through something like this because no one's ever been through anything like this. It's disappointing when the players, whether they're in Indianapolis or whether they're in San Antonio, feel as though, there are things that could have been done, should be done, should be happening that aren't happening. And it's disappointing to hear that because the NCAA tournament is supposed to be the culmination of a player's, season and sometimes their career. For some kids, this is their first NCAA tournament ever, and it may be their last year that they get a chance. They may not make it next year. They may not be back next year. Who knows? So it's disappointing to hear and to see the reaction. And it certainly doesn't put us, speaking women's basketball particularly, it doesn't put us in the best possible light. Again, I'm not there. I'm not privy to any of the details of exactly what and how things were put together and why. But from what I see and from what people have put out there, doesn't present a very good picture at all.
Thanks.
We'll go to Vicky.
Hey, Gino, I was wondering, how did it come to pass that you brought CD with you to UConn in the first place? Like, how did you know each other, and how did you bring her with you?
Sometimes, you just have a hunch about people. Sometimes things occur while you're in their company that make you think, hey, down the road, if this were to ever happen. And I can't say that we were really good friends or that we had known each other a long time. Chris's time at Rutgers as an assistant coach was during a time when Rutgers was one of the best programs in America. And she was a big part of that. And she worked for a legendary coach, Teresa Grants, who I knew very well. So I had a chance to spend some time on some NCAA business and some assistant coaches committees with Chris. And, the more time that I spent listening to her and watching her in action and seeing how she operated and went about her business in a manner that I just thought, if I ever have an opportunity to be a head coach, that's certainly someone that I would want to be, at my side. So that's how it all came about. And I'm very fortunate. And so is everyone at Connecticut for the last 36 years has been very fortunate that she, walked away from a great opportunity at Rutgers to come up here and take a chance on something that no one knew whether it was ever going to be, as good as it's been or even worthwhile. And it's turned out to be better than we could have imagined.
Go to Roger.
Hey, Gina, I hope you're feeling better.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering how things are working out logistically. I mean, do you feel like you're very tuned into what's going on down there? Are you working hard at home? Are you just relaxing?
Well, I took time out for my excruciatingly busy schedule today to fit you guys in. I'm just swamped with trying to decide which game film I want to watch for the 10th time. So am I tied in? Yeah, I'm tied in. I actually watched practice last night. I talked to the kids on the team and spent time with the coaches before practice and after practice. And I'll meet with them again today. You can only do so much. You're not there. You're not hands-on, so to speak. So it is kind of weird. It's kind of different in the vibe, but they're in great hands. You couldn't have better people in charge down there, from the coaching staff to the support staff, everyone. And this team has grown up a lot to the point where I trust the players on the team to understand what's going on, to see what the challenges are, and to accept it and do the best that they possibly can. No whining, no complaining, no, woe is me.
Doug Feinberg, go ahead.
Hey, Coach, good to see you again.
Hey.
So taking Doug's question a little further, just looking at the NCAA tournament in a bigger picture model, and obviously the weight rooms is something that's being noticed now, and other things, a swag bag, but the bigger picture stuff of the men have 68 teams in their tournament, the women only have 64, and you could add 4 teams to make it equitable that way on the women's side. Or the NIT, the men's own that tournament, whereas the women still have to pay to go play in it. I mean, it costs $100,000 to play in that tournament, which I know you haven't played in, obviously, because you guys are always in the NCAAs, but are those things you think could be fixable to maybe make it more equitable and a bigger picture than just a weight room's not the same size, the food's not the same, like the little things that are becoming bigger because of it's being magnified right now?
Yeah, Doug, this has been for me, as long as I've been in women's basketball, this has been a lifelong issue. This isn't something new that just kind of cropped up. You can make a case that it's never been fair. It's never been equitable, and not that life is supposed to be fair, and not that you expect things to magically be rectified and saying, hey, yeah, we see an inequity and we're going to fix it. The world doesn't move that way. But what's happening at the NCAA level, I think, is it's really that's a small sample what's happening. Okay, that's a small sample of what occurs every single day on every college campus pretty much throughout this country. You know, we're very fortunate at UConn, but it didn't used to be that way. You know, I spent 20 some years here battling the same things, whether or not we could get treated equally. You know, forget fairly, just equally, or just even get what you deserve based on what you've accomplished. So I could say today, yeah, absolutely. Hey, you know, there isn't one issue at UConn that you could say, wow, you know, I wish, you know, we had this, that we deserve this. But I'm in a small minority of women's coaches around America. And don't get me wrong, you know, you should get judged on your results. You should get judged on your performance. No question. And if you're a men's coach and you get hired to coach men's basketball and you don't make the NCAA tournament 4 or 5 years, some cases less, depending on where you are, you get fired. That's it. You're out. No ifs, ands, or buts, no questions asked. And on the women's side, maybe that's not the case. And it used to be that you could coach forever and it didn't matter whether you had any success of that level or not. Why? There wasn't the investment. There wasn't the need. We don't need you to be really good. We don't need you to be, you know, as successful. We would love you to just graduate your players, you know, keep everybody happy, make sure you don't cause any problems around campus, and everything will be good. And you can keep your job forever. And, you know, throughout the country, you know, women's coaches have battled to try to get what coaches feel are things that I need to be successful. Now, sometimes it's unrealistic. You know, I hear coaches all the time say, well, if we had a better marketing director, we'd be more successful. A better marketing director doesn't make you win more games. If we had somebody that sold tickets, we'd sell more tickets. Well, maybe not. But if you weren't, you know, 5 and 24, you would sell more tickets. So I just think there's a big picture there that for a lot of coaches in women's sports, not just women's basketball, that work just as hard as any other coach in America and are successful and are doing an incredible job. And they're doing it with, you know, the resources that you would say are less than adequate relative to what the men might have. And that's at every school. And that starts with every president and athletic director and anyone else associated with making sure that there's some form of equity, not just, let's just give them enough so that they stay out of my office and stop complaining. And as I said, I'm fortunate at Connecticut. There are a few other coaches in America. They're just like me, fortunate. And I'm indebted forever to my administration and the presidents that we've had. And I've earned that success. My team has earned that success. My assistant coaches, the players that I've coached here have earned it. And some other places, I think they work just as hard and they probably earned it, and it's not happening. So the NCAA tournament and the NCAA and all that stuff, I don't think they're doing anything that you would say, wow, that's just completely, you know, out of the ordinary. It's not. It just follows with kind of the way things are and the way they've always been. And unfortunately now the players have put it out there, and it's going to have to be dealt with.
We'll go to Charlotte.
Hey, Gino.
Hey.
Is that something that you had mentioned you've been able to talk with your players? Is that something that's come up in the conversations you have, or what have you guys been more focused on in those talks?
No, hasn't come up. You know, I'm sure they see it. I'm sure they're aware of it. I'm sure they're privy to it. But it's not something where the players have said, Coach, you're not going to believe this. You're not going to believe what we got in our swag bag. You're not going to believe what, the food situation, or my players don't do that. We try to handle it, in our own way. And, we try to, right now the focus is on, we're trying to win. And, at the same time, there are these issues, and you can't hide from them. But up to now, my players have not voiced any concerns whatsoever.
Carl.
Gino, I was thinking back to the first time you had to miss games when you would get updates on the bus or in the hotel waiting for the phone to ring. I was wondering if it's harder to watch your team on TV than to coach them. And second question, if you don't mind, did you really think ever that Sherry Cole would retire before you did?
Hey, I didn't think I'd make it. I didn't think I'd make it past 4 years at UConn, the way those first 3 years went. So am I surprised by Sherry's decision? Yes and no, but to be honest, as you get a little bit older in this business now, the way the business is changing, the way the game is changing, the way the world is changing, and your own world changes, Sherry has a grandchild now. Your priorities maybe start to change a little bit, and you start to see that the job you signed up for is no longer the job that you have. I can see why. I can see why it happened. I'm disappointed because I think we lost a great coach. We lost a great ambassador for the game. We lost a great teacher of the game. And we need as many of those as we can get. So I'm disappointed. But I understand it. I understand it, and I'm not surprised. And I think you're going to have more and more people do the exact same thing. And yeah, watching a game is way harder than coaching a game. Just like coaching in a game is way harder than playing in a game. The less control you have, the less effect you can have on the game, the more angst you feel. And even to the point where I said, I might not watch Sunday's game. It might be better if I was sitting in a school bus outside St. John's waiting for one of the managers to run out and tell me the score. I might need to hide down in the basement and have somebody come down and give me the update, or like a ticker taper back in the old days, have somebody read it out and make it up and make it sound like we're winning.
Alexa.
Hey, Gino, I'm in an airport parking garage, so I hope you can hear me.
Sure.
Specifically for, there were some reports that the testing was different. I'm sorry, now of course it's really loud. There's some reports that the testing was different on the women's side versus the men's, that the men's were getting PCR tests, that the women were getting antigen tests, and maybe some false positives were coming up. And then there were also some reports on the food specifically not being really satisfactory or adequate enough. And I know you said the players hadn't necessarily complained themselves, but on those issues in particular, has there been anything concerning from what you've heard from the coaching staff or from the rest of the program about those two particular elements of what's going on in the bubble?
Well, I just saw from the beginning, I saw that we were going to be using two different kinds of testing systems. That the testing system on the women's side was a little bit different than on the men's side. The men's was straight PCR, and on the women's side, it was antigen. And then if you had any issues, then they would do a PCR. So I knew, we knew going in that was the case. Why? I don't know. I don't know why there's a difference. I don't know why one is one way and one is the other. But all tier one individuals, everyone has traveled with the team since they've been down there, have all tested negative. So No issues on our part so far. So I can't answer the question as to why it's a different system in Indianapolis than it is in Texas.
Anything with the food?
Well, I've heard some horror stories from Indianapolis about some issues, and you know how kids are. There's never enough food to feed a kid. I don't care if you let them loose in the supermarket overnight. They're going to come out in the morning and say, I'm hungry. So obviously the issues are immense. And yeah, there's been some stories that have come out both from Indianapolis and from San Antonio relative to that. But again, maybe having been in a bubble already at Mohegan, we kind of see it, understand it. Although I would venture to say that, the food at Mohegan was probably a little better than some of the food that, they're getting in box lunches or whatever it is.
Dan Connolly.
Hey, Gino, I have a question about Paige. We've talked about Paige a lot this year, her shooting, her passing, her ability as a teammate, but what can you say about the way she plays off the ball and how she works to get open and get herself in position to get the ball, or just when she doesn't have the ball?
Well, that's been a big point of emphasis this year, to be honest. In high school, Paige had the ball in her hands a lot, and she created a lot of opportunities for others. And at Connecticut, we're asking her to do both. She has the ball in her hands, but also spending time coming from off the ball and doing some work that allows her to get more opportunities, different kinds of opportunities. Let's put it that way. And it's been an ongoing process. She's really smart. Paige sees things. The only thing that you say is Paige is in a hurry sometimes to get to the next thing when it concerns to go get the ball, because she's so used to having the ball in her hands. So we're trying to show her, how to be patient. But she just has a good pace about her, and I think that's the biggest thing. So generally, she's worked really, really hard with the coaching staff on how to move without the ball, how to get open, how to create opportunities. It's not easy. She always faces the other team's best defenders, and she's seen all kinds of different defenses all year. But she seems to handle everything, in stride.
All right, we have time for a couple more, so we'll go to Joe Zone and then Roger to wrap up with Coach.
Gino, I'm curious about the impact of being down 2 coaches. Is that more of an impact in game prep practice or more of an impact on game day?
I think just a general impact. There's obviously less eyes, on a particular situation. There's less ideas, less viewpoints, sharing the workload. Now it's a little bit more difficult. Again, we're in a fortunate situation that, Ben Cantor, our video coordinator, who used to be an assistant coach back in the day before he joined us, has filled in that role for Shea, and he's terrific. I mean, he's really smart, does a great job with the players. He's got great rapport with the players. He sees the game, and certainly he's been around the program for 4 or 5 years now, so he understands. So that helps tremendously. And, Jamel, having been a head coach already and an assistant, I think sees both sides of it. And obviously CD being CD. So I think they're going to handle it okay. Sometimes in the game, the less voices in your ear, the better. So I think those guys might be better off during the game. Who knows?
All right, and Roger with the last question for Coach.
For so often, everybody's just accepted the fact that CD is really good and a vital part of the program. But can you just maybe specifically talk about what impresses you so much about her that makes her so invaluable?
I would say the number one thing is her consistency. You know what you're going to get every single day. There are absolutely no surprises. You know exactly what to expect, and the players know exactly where she's coming from. There's never any doubt that she has the best interests of the players at heart. She's very detail oriented, very thorough, very persistent. She's organized, and she kind of has a even keel demeanor. She's not going to be volatile like I am sometimes. So there's a lot of stability that you're going to get. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of little things that only CD can do that kind of irritate the players. I get a kick out of it, but sometimes they don't. And but in the end, the one thing they do know is that every morning she wakes up, and every night she goes to bed, and she only has one thing in mind, and that's the welfare and the success of our players and our team, and they know that, and I think that's rare in today's world.
Hi, CD. Can you talk about can you talk about the logistics of how the coaching is going to be handled in the first couple games without not only Gino but now with Shay, and who's handling the responsibility she had, and there are people moving up and back, and how is that going to work?
Well, I think Gino first of all, I'm not as boring as he made me sound. So it's not, I'm the exact same every day. So just so that you know. But I think as far as the duties, I think he alluded to it. We were able to have Ben step in and assist us on the court. And so that's helpful. I think Jamel, we each have our scouting anyway. So I was scouting High Point. And then we break up the scouting for the first weekend. So we're each doing that. But we've, obviously there are added, media is an added responsibility now that I don't usually have to do. That takes time away from whether it's my scout or doing stuff with the players. But I think we're in good shape.
All right, Charlotte.
Hey, Chris. How have just been the last couple of days been, and what you've been able to do that you guys were finally able to get some practice time in last night?
It's been, well, we knew going in that we were going to have to quarantine for the 2 days to test and all of that. And I think we expected it, and it was what we expected. And then once we were able to have a little freedom where we ordered some dinner in and been able to go to a food, to a study hall room and eat there. So it's been the last day. It just seems like it's been a month since we actually left Connecticut. It seems a lot longer because there's been such a long time without basketball. Practicing last night was great. I thought the players went really hard. They wanted to go hard. They wanted to get out there and get their legs back. And so I thought the workout was good. We were able to be outside walking between here and when we test and when we go to practice. So all of that has been really positive. I think, I think Gino alluded to it as well. Our players have taken it all in stride. So I feel like they've handled it really well.
Vicky.
Hi, CD.
Hi.
Gino has been talking about quite a bit this season about how he tried to coach the team the same way that he always coaches, and you just can't do it with these kids. And he's had to tack, like in sailing terms, and get to you still keep the same expectations, but get there a different way. Like, what have you noticed, or what has he in particular, or you as a staff, like what exactly have you had to do differently this year?
Things take sometimes a little bit longer. There are a lot more questions. Sometimes there, I give them I ask him, is it a question or an excuse? Because if it's a question, I'm happy to answer it. If it's an excuse as to why you didn't do it, that's different. So trying to teach them the difference between a genuine question and having an excuse for something that you just didn't do. But their questions are generally pretty good. They want to get better. They're learning. It just takes a little bit longer to get things done with such a young group.
Matthew.
Coach, just a little bit on Aaliyah Edwards. What have you seen from her as she's grown in her first season, and what are you expecting out of her as the tournament starts?
Aaliyah has been probably one of our most improved players. I think the more comfortable she gets, the better she plays. I think she's worked on finishing around the basket. I think she's working on her outside shot. She's definitely our most physical banger. She's also one of our quickest players, so she's able to defend post players. She can guard on the perimeter as well. So she gives us a different dimension when she gets in there, both on the defensive end and on the offensive end. It gives us that spark. She's our, the spark off the bench for us, and that's really important.
Dan Connolly.
Hi, CD.
Hi.
What kind of adjustment is it for Ben to step into an assistant coaching role from being a video director for you guys?
Well, I think Coach mentioned that Ben had been an assistant a number of years ago. So, I think he's just trying to do whatever we need him to do to help. And that, he still has to have his responsibilities with film, doing, getting our film ready and things that we need for each team. But now he's going to step in and help with scouting. And I think he's just like everybody. When you're down one or two people, the next person has to step up and be ready to go. And Ben is willing and ready to do anything that we need him to do, whether it's on the court, behind the videotaping stuff, getting film, or being another set of eyes on the bench.
Carl.
Chris, is there a team you've played in the last year or two that's comparable to High Point in their style?
Almost every Big East team. I'd say most Big East teams, because they shoot a lot of threes, they play 5 out. They make a lot of threes. So I think that's one good thing, is that we've played a lot of teams like that. DePaul, Creighton, Villanova, all of those teams are similar to High Point.
Thank you.
Alexa.
Hi, Chris. Hope you're doing well. Gino had mentioned that he thought the kids have grown up a lot. And I'm sure even in the last maybe week or so, you probably have seen that too, just having to deal with all of the, it's just a unique situation there. From your perspective, how have they grown up from the beginning of the season to now? And even in the last maybe week or two, when it's really postseason time and they've had to deal with all these kind of extraordinary circumstances?
Well, just from experience, you can, gaining experience, knowing what to expect, that helps you handle things differently. So from a practice standpoint, understanding how we go, how hard we have to go, what the intensity level is expected, and what practice is supposed to look like, how you're supposed to play, and that playing below that is unacceptable, whether it's in practice or in a game. I think they've grown in that way. They understand it, and they now demand that of themselves. So like, even a week ago, I thought the growth stood out to me most at the Big East tournament, with how tuned in they were to both the scouting, to both just being in the bubble for the first time. They were really focused on the games and wanting to win the championship, and there really was it was a no nonsense approach. And I thought that was, big strides from even just like 3 weeks before that. And then last night going into practice, they were anxious. They were excited to actually play and practice. And you sit around all day, and sometimes you could go to practice. We practiced late last night, and it could be like, but it wasn't. It was very enthusiastic right from the get-go. They were demanding of each other. We talk about there's a different UConn team regular season and NCAA tournament, and I think that they embraced that, and they practiced last night like a team, a Connecticut team, getting ready to play in the NCAA tournament.
Michelle?
Yeah, Chris, I wanted to ask you, from your perspective as somebody who was a player, a student athlete back at the, when the transition was happening. Obviously, you played in the AIAW tournament, the last one, going to the NCAA, with everything that has been talked about in the last 24 hours in particular, and the sort of obvious inequities. How do you feel about that? Because you come from that perspective of when people didn't expect much, frankly. And how do you talk to your players about that? Because, I think they have the right to talk about it, but sort of balancing that with what, like I said, what you experienced.
Well, I think it's like a lot of things. We've come a long way, but we're still not close to where we need to be. And you can appreciate where we've come from, and certainly appreciate where we've come from. The inequity of things, even, at the Final Four a few years ago, there were things that, that were not fair. And the one positive thing I would say, and I think Lynn did this last night, they listened to the coaches and they're going to make changes, and hopefully they'll make bigger changes before we have to have a social media blast to have everyone be embarrassed and see the differences. So I think on the one hand, it's unfortunate that it happened, but on the other hand, I think there's been a response to it, and hopefully it'll improve not only for the rest of this tournament, but for the future. It'll be looked at differently. There'll be more eyes on it, and there'll be more people. I certainly don't believe that the committee went in thinking, well, let's see how we can not have a great experience for the players. I don't think that's how they approached it. But certainly there were areas that were overlooked and not deemed important that are important in a lot of ways. And that just can't happen. It's not acceptable. I think everyone in the NCAA knows that. Everyone on the committee knows that. So, I try to balance it with our players where, you've worked hard and you've earned this. And is it fair? No, but that can't keep you from moving forward and presenting it to the public and giving it a platform that for somebody, it might not be you, it might be somebody after you that's going to benefit more, but that's part of being, being in a woman and being in sports and taking a stand and making a statement, so that it may not always help you, but it's certainly going to help someone that comes after you.
I was wondering, as much as you have stepped in multiple times, I think 10 times as a head coach, and obviously been there as long as Gino has, does the game feel any different to you though when you're the head coach, or is the feeling of it, when you're just walking out to the bench, does it feel the same, or is it a little bit different feeling for you if when you're in the head coaching role?
Definitely, it's definitely this time stepping in is definitely different, because the other times, if we lost, the season still continued. In this situation, it's much different, because if we lose, our season's over. So that's definitely a different feel to it. And you want what's best for the players, and you want to make sure that you're doing everything that you can to give them the opportunity to move on. But the feel as a head coach, I think the first time I did it, I was surprised that I did have a feel in the game for it, more so because I had never done it. And so I think there is a sense when I've been the head coach that the game, you do have a feel for it and you're part of it in a different way. Instead of making the suggestions, you're making the decisions. And it's not, I won't say, it's fun, it's exciting, it's challenging, it's all of those things. And it's an experience. I just don't know, I hope that between Jamal and myself, Ben, that we have the kind of experience that we need going into this game and going into the NCAA tournament to be able to help our players move forward. And I'm expecting that we do. I feel confident in what we've prepared. It's not, see, that's the funny part. This preparation didn't start, Monday or Tuesday after, Gino got sick. This preparation started in September. So what we've done well and what we've gotten better at all year will be part of what we do against High Point, and what we're not good at, what we've not been good at all year will probably be evident, or maybe hopefully less evident, against High Point. So this has been a year-long process, and we're just looking to be able to put it all together in a 40-minute game on Sunday.
Charlotte.
To kind of follow up on the youth stuff, Gino had talked about just how this group has really invigorated the program, and I was curious your thoughts on that after having coached them for a full regular season, how you've kind of seen that, just the makeup with 7 freshmen and 3 juniors and 2 sophomores kind of change the way you have to coach.
Invigorate is one word. Drive you crazy would be another word, another feeling, because they are so young and because there's so many of them. Normally, when you have freshmen, you might have 4, maybe you have 5. And in this situation, we have 7 that have never played in an NCAA. Well, actually more than 7. We have only 3 have actually ever played in an NCAA tournament game. So it is invigorating because they are a lot of fun. I think they enjoy each other's company, and that makes it enjoyable as a coach to come to practice. It makes it fun to do stuff in just around the program, and it has brought life to us. I think it's been different in a positive way, and I think everyone has enjoyed it and just want to keep playing.
We have time for a couple more, so we'll go to Roger and then Joe to finish up with CD.
Hi, CD. Just the opposite end of that youthful invigoration. I mean, coach has always talked about he needs the players to lead and not just the coaches to be the face of the team. Where have you gotten that leadership? I mean, it seems like the juniors have been overlooked a lot this year by outsiders, but I would think that they're giving you an awful lot in terms of that leadership you need.
Yeah, I think our juniors have done a great job with that, because it would be easy as older players, as to be the senior members of the team, to not want to be involved with all the young guys and to find it silly, or to not enjoy being that and not being able to help them. And they've embraced it from the end of last year, the end of the season last year. Those 3, Olivia, Kristen and E, have embraced the fact that they were going to be the oldest players on the team, and that they needed to take a leadership role, and they've done that. And they've certainly they spearheaded it off the court when everyone just first got here, and they've helped maintain the attitude of, hey, look, we can't control things, this is how we do it. We got to work hard, and they've really been an important part of trying to stabilize, because with young players, they can be up and down emotionally a lot, and that's one of the things that you have to try to learn. And I think E and Liv and Kristen have tried to be more like this, so that everybody can stay a little calmer. But they have done, you're right, I think they have been overlooked in some ways, but they've done a tremendous job. And the young guys have wanted to be led, and I think that's important too. You have to have people that want to be led, and they certainly respect and listen and learn, and have learned from their older teammates.
All right, last question from Joe Zone.
Hi, Chris. Here's my question. Do you think because there is nothing else to do, that they're so locked down and so other distractions, do you think there's a basketball benefit to that all their focus now just goes to getting ready and playing the games?
Yeah, there's still school. Like they had class this morning, and with the time change, some of them are a little bit earlier than what they would normally have. So we've tried to keep on a similar schedule. But certainly I think basketball has been a great outlet for them, and probably they've enjoyed and appreciated it more because of the way the rest of their campus life has had to be. But I can't say enough about this team's dedication to to working really hard at doing the right things and not putting themselves in bad situations. And they've worked really hard. They've never once questioned, and we've asked, at different points earlier in the season, was this something they wanted to continue? And they all said yes, without hesitation. Not going home for Christmas, all yes, without hesitation. So they're committed. They love basketball. They love being on this team, and now they're getting to experience the fruit of that, that labor.
How's it going? I just wanted to ask, there's obviously been a lot of talk on social media about the amenities there with the food and the weight room. I just wanted to know what your experience has been so far, and if you have any thoughts on the food, and just kind of how you just give your take on that. Either one of you.
No. The food, it hasn't been too bad. I know I've seen the pictures on social media. Our food hasn't looked like that or anything, so the food's been fine. Our stay has been fine. The hotel is cool. Everything has gone smoothly since we've been here, so I don't think we've had problem with any of that. Although the weight room is ridiculous, as y'all saw. But
Was last night the first night you were able to get down there or check it out?
yeah, we had practice last night, so that was our first time to see it in person.
So obviously when you saw it, it was pretty eye-opening.
Yeah, it definitely is eye-opening. Just seeing the guys' weight room. We've been fighting for gender equality for a while now, and that just goes to show that we have a lot of work to do. And I'm calling out NCAA that. There's no excuse for that, and it's unacceptable, and they need to do better. What are we gonna do with 5-pound dumbbells, and the guys have luxury of a whole weight room? It's unfortunate.
Thank you.
Alexa.
Hey guys, how was it like to actually have to quarantine for the 2 days? And then when you finally got on the practice court, it seemed like CD was really pleased with the intensity level that you all brought. What did you see from that too, just once you were actually able to get on the court?
For us, I think it was a good workout, good time period for us, especially considering we hadn't been able to work out for the past essentially 3 days, quarantining and traveling and whatnot. So it's good to just kind of get out there, kind of get moving again, going over our stuff, and just continue to prepare for High Point coming up.
All right, Roger.
For either one of you or both of you, Coach has talked about a different maturity that he can see in this team. Can you just talk about the growth this team has shown this year in terms of maturity?
Yeah, I think, regardless of the circumstances, we've kind of been, have had a force to mature and kind of adjust to, what's been thrown our way. We really had no other option. But I think, as a team, we're continuing to grow, especially, on and off the court in ways like that. And I think it's pretty evident, especially this second half of the season. So that's something that we're just continuing to build and kind of grow on.
Pat.
both of you, but Kristen, if you could start, what's been the biggest difference between this season and the first NCAA tournament? Does it even feel like an NCAA tournament to you guys? What do you miss most about having everybody there? And do you think it's good for the freshmen that they don't know what they're missing?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's good for the freshmen. Obviously it sucks because they don't know what it usually is like, but because they've never experienced like an actual tournament. But I mean, it's different. We usually have our coach here, you know, like that's the biggest difference. And we're stuck in our rooms. You know, usually we can, you know, go out to the hotel or whatever. It's just different things due to COVID and the protocols that we have. But we're making the best of it, and we're doing well. Just handling everything that's thrown at our way. So it is what it is. We're just happy to be here to play, honestly.
Dan?
Hey guys, for both of you, what can you say about your video director, Ben? What's he like, and then what's it like having him helping out as an assistant coach?
You want me to answer? Ben is great. He talks a lot of shit.
He's competitive.
Very competitive. But it's great to have him on our staff. And he does a great job. And whatever he is thrown at him, and we're happy to have him.
Yeah, I think he's definitely made the most in terms of helping us this season. With his film and what he kind of puts together off the court, and then even just stepping on with us and going up and down, like it's definitely not easy, especially for somebody that isn't doing that consistently. So for him to step out there and help us go through things and play scout team and just kind of be there to help us, I think it really speaks volume. So yeah, Ben's great.
Yeah, Ben is great.
Alexa?
Kristen, you obviously were speaking about the inequalities before, and one of the other ones that's been brought up is that you guys are taking less accurate COVID tests. I guess the men in Indianapolis are taking PCR, and you guys are doing antigen. And I know so far everyone's testing negative, and it hasn't been an issue yet. But when you hear something about that, that you guys are having less accurate COVID tests, like what do you kind of feel about that, and the way that the NCAA kind of didn't maybe prioritize your safety?
Yeah, I just saw that on social media before this call. And again, that's very unfortunate. I had no idea about any of that or the specifics of the test. I just know we show up, we test negative, and then we go back to our rooms. So to hear that, it's kind of mind blowing, just especially because of the whole COVID, and it's mind blowing. I don't really have anything else to say though. So, yeah.
All right, we'll go to Pat.
Can both of you talk about what the biggest difference is between a practice run by your coach and a practice run by CD, and how much interaction have you had with Gino? How often does he zoom into you guys, and how has that been?
There's not really much of a difference. There's still the same expectations, in terms of level of intensity and effort. And so that's on us to bring every practice. In terms of just talking with coach, we were able to talk with him last night after practice, and he seems to be doing fine. He's healthy. And so we're just looking forward for him to come up as soon as possible.
He said he was watching practice. Was he actually like coaching when you were on the video call, or was it just more about how he's doing and when he can rejoin you, or was he actually breaking down some of the things you did in practice?
No, I believe he was just watching, but we were able to talk with him afterwards, so that was nice.
Doug?
Just curious, more of a general question. Obviously, you've been having to quarantine. What have you been doing besides basketball? It's just a lot of schoolwork and trying to, stay busy, or what? Just what's that been like?
Yeah, definitely a lot of schoolwork. Yeah. Trying to stay on top of our class, especially considering, we're all online. So that's been the biggest priority outside of, basketball and safe quarantining.
Anything else for the players? Charlotte, go ahead.
Just real quickly follow up on that. Now that, how are you guys able to do anything kind of fun in the off time besides focus on schoolwork, or able to do in basketball? Just any.
We play cards and we play Uno.
CD has
just
her
kinda-
activities for us. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. CD
Our
has
little
activities.
Texas Showdown stuff, our little games. So
Yeah.
she does a great job of having us, have little activities and fun things to do, especially on the road like this. So
Yeah.